Should I sign off?
No, no,
In my face. Hi, good morning. We're just gonna wait a few more minutes. We're just waiting on one other committee member.
No, I can't hear you guys. Mic is muted.
There we go. Okay. Is that better, Kaylee? Good. All right. Awesome. Thank you. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. Hopefully we'll have some of our other committee members joining us soon. I don't see anybody in the planning room at the moment, but we'll keep an eye on it just in case. But we'll go ahead and get started. First and foremost, thank you all for taking the time to be here. Excited to talk about Girls Lacrosse. Excited to be here with you all on our committee. Obviously, Melinda will be running the show today, but just wanted to start with some A couple of things. One, brief introductions. Obviously, this is my first year with the committee, first year with CHSAA, so getting to know everybody. So would love to do some brief introductions. But before we do that, I'll kind of run through the agenda for today. So we'll do a welcome. Then we will have Melinda call the meeting into order. And then we will do NFHS Rules Committee report from Melinda. I'll give a brief update along with Colette. In terms of CHSAA, we'll do an official report. We've got Zoe and Sam. We're going to try to hold off for Sam to be able to join us via Zoom. She had an obligation today, but hopefully we'll be able to have her join us. And then we've got some discussion items that we'll talk through today as well. So before we get started with introductions, are there any additional items that we would like to add to the agenda for today's meeting for discussion? No? Okay. All right. If we can go around the room real quick and do some brief introductions, and then I'll turn it over to Melinda and we'll jump right in. All right, start.
Okay, Melinda Brown, Committee Chair, Athletic Director at Mullen, and been in the Girls Lacrosse world since I was 8. Long time.
Kelsey Sheridan, I'm the head coach at Fairview. I'm also a counselor there. This will be my 8th year.
Join us, Kelsey.
Hunter Worthley, Assistant Athletic Director at Colorado Cat.
That's okay.
Zoe Smith, I am the former president, past president of CWLOA, and been in the lacrosse world not pretty much my whole life as well, and in particular in Colorado for 25 years.
So, Colette.
Colette Stone, coordinator of sport with Girls Lacrosse. Everyone should get a lot of emails from me by now, so should be familiar with my name.
Perfect. Thanks, Colette. And then Kaylee.
Haley Maxwell, Athletic Director, Air Academy. Been part of the Colorado lacrosse world since I was in 8th grade. Coached a little bit. Done a little bit of everything. So excited to be part of this group for sure.
Thanks, Kaylee. Appreciate you joining us. Aaron Dunn, Assistant Commissioner. Excited about the opportunity to work with you all. Excited about the opportunity to learn more about where we're at from a girls lacrosse standpoint here in the state of Colorado and how we can assist in advancing and enhancing the sport. So looking forward to the meeting today. So Melinda, all yours.
Hi, good morning. So we also have Kaylee Wolf on our committee who's not here. And so I did just want to, because she's new to our committee, so just give a shout out to her from Aspen. But welcome to the girls committee meeting. It's 2026, which is a little crazy, but fun. I believe this is my last year being the chair, but I actually don't truthfully know. But happy to be part of this committee, happy to support and move the game forward in the state of Colorado. So I really appreciate everyone being here today. And we will kind of just go through the agenda, and while adding things would have been nice, we can just move fluently, and if we need to talk about other things, we can always add that. So first off, I'll talk about the NFHS Rules Committee report. This was my first year on the Rules Committee for the NFHS. It was a very interesting process. I never encountered any of it. We are in Section 6, which is Arkansas, Colorado, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. And so we are the only state-sanctioned program out there. And so while I am representing 5 different states, it's really the heart of Colorado, but I did reach out to Texas last year, just so everyone is aware, because they do have a thriving club program. And so I think it's important to let them know that we're kind of waiting on them to make this beautiful game a sanctioned sport. And so that they have support from us. And so I did reach out, just letting them know about the few rules that our coaches had talked about and that we did bring forth to the Rules Committee last year. There were a lot of changes, not major changes, in my opinion, that is going to be like mind-blowing. We got a nice little report, which maybe we can see.
Okay, see it.
I'm like, we're gonna show this.
There we go.
But I'll pass this around, and what I'm gonna do is actually, I'll have Colette make copies and share this out. Because I think that I got this because I'm on the committee, not because everyone got this. And I think it's important that we do share this with coaches. You guys can pass it around if you want right now. But it's a nice little booklet that this was actually my section was helping write this, making the PowerPoints. The newbies, we don't really get to do all the hard work. We get to do the pretty work, I would say. So this is something that I help make in the PowerPoints and stuff like that. But so more or less the rules committee, and again, being new at this, I just want to kind of talk about the processes. I will reach out, or Aaron or Colette will reach out throughout the year about possible rule changes that we see we want to make in Colorado. I do, like I said, need to reach out to Section 6. We are the only sanctioned sport, but we are sanctioned state. So, but I do reach out to Texas just to see if there's anyone with an opinion there as well, because I don't want us to have just a Colorado lens. If we want to grow the sport, we need to understand that this sport looks different in all of the different states. And so once I get coaches' opinions, AD's opinions on ADs who understand girls lacrosse's opinions about possible rule changes, then I put it out for a vote. I talked about it a little earlier off mic, but I put it out for a vote last year. I think Colette sent out the email with the 3 different rules that we were voting on in Colorado, and we only got 12 people, 12 coaches that actually voted on the 3 rules. And 12 coaches is not a good representation of what our overall arching community looks like. So I'm really going to harp on from our lacrosse ADs and coaches that we do get more involved in the voting process, both for rules as well as postseason play, which we'll talk about, or postseason award we'll talk about later. And then myself and 9 other people sit in a room in, where did I go? Indiana. I forgot. Indiana for 3 days, and we vote on rules. We talk about rules. We make changes. I was a big part of editing the rules book and making sure that it does make sense for all members and who may be the newcomers to lacrosse who don't understand lacrosse, that they can understand the rules. And so we have about 4 meetings a year, and then we sit in a room for three days and make the new rules book. You should be getting them in February. They will be sent out from CHSAA. And like I said, there's no, for me, major changes within the actual sport. There's a few minor changes that you'll have to get used to a little. But we really just, I think that the rules committee from the NFHS perspective is more understanding that at the national level, what lacrosse looks like in New York is not what lacrosse looks like in Colorado and Georgia or South Carolina. And so we really do have to understand that the talent is vast, and the speed of the game is very different. And 2 states introduced a shot clock this past year. They're in the pilot program. I know that there was some rumblings from some of our top programs in the state to add the shot clock. And I always go back to from the AD's perspective is it works for the top talent of our state, but would it work for the bottom talent of our state? And so we really just have to make sure that we watch games, see games, go support games, so that we really do have an understanding of what the game looks like in Colorado, so that we can make really good decisions. And like I said, I mean, we have two coaches who really would like to do a pilot program for the shot clock. But then that's it out of 2 programs out of, I think, I don't actually know how many programs we have now because of our clock, the programs, we'll get into that a little later, but the programs that are not in play anymore, unfortunately. So
One question for you.
Yes.
The states that are doing the pilot, 2 parts of that question. One is kind of where are they in their pilot process, year 1, year 2, and then have they shared feedback in terms of how that's gone for them?
So it's a 2-year pilot program. They just finished their first year. From what they're going to be, we haven't gotten the NFHS committee, rules committee has not gotten the report, but it was New York and some schools in Maryland.
I think it was
So-
private schools in Maryland.
the private schools in Maryland. I will tell you from a handful of my friends who are coaches in New York, they love it.
Okay.
It does speed up the game. But I'm also, my friends in New York who are coaches are in top programs.
Right.
And so the referee who's on the rules committee, who is one of the refs on the rules committee, who's from the western side of the state and kind of in the rural area, western south side of the state, says the shot clock has been very difficult, but it's more about the operations side of it. And so that could just be a year one situation. They're rolling out their basketball shot clock to their field. Sometimes it loses power. They don't have someone who understands how to use it. And so just like the basketball committee, you have to think about how much is it going to actually cost to put in the shot clocks? How much is it going to cost to pay someone to run the shot clock? The understanding, and this is what we all talked about in the rules committee when we talked about the possibility of the shot clock, but really wanting to see the pilot program. The pressure that some of the coaches in New York felt from, they have students who run their scoreboard, who do their do their books, and now you're adding a shot clock to a student's plate. Because most people don't pay to go to lacrosse games; they get in for free, and so you don't have paid workers like basketball programs do.
Right.
And so the official was very disheartened with how some of the students were treated by the coaches. Specifically from the other team, because the shot clock was off or not started at the proper time or reset. And so there were a bunch of bumps and bruises that we really would need to think about what our programs at the high school level look like.
I would say that in Colorado, it's mostly parents at the table.
Parents working tables.
Yeah, like I don't think I've ever been to a game with a kid.
Mhm.
So granted, I've seen fights at tables with parents too, so,
Yeah,
but maybe that would help.
yeah,
Yeah.
Although, as it is, we've had some issues with the parents, like, and in the past couple of years, CHSAA's had to offer a lot of support to the officials on big games because of those
Fair.
issues, so that seems like introducing a lot of.
there's a lot of it seemed to be that the New England states, 3 of them were all about shot clocks, 3 of them were not. Maryland and Virginia, like the DMV wants shot clocks, but like rural Virginia does not want. So again, I think it's understanding that our sport looks very different from 50 miles apart. So
It's good to know. I was curious. to
Yeah,
see.
I would say from a coaching perspective, I would love it and it would be amazing and fantastic and prep our kids to go to the next level, because I think on the girls' side, we have been very successful in Colorado sending kids to play at the next level and they're being successful. But from the athletic director's side, like that cost and trying to find someone to run it is a nightmare. Like we're finding that right now with basketball, right? And so adding that to a turf field and trying to find that is going to be a whole other issue. So
yeah, I agree with that. And one thing that I have, we talked about at the rules committee, is I really strongly believe that it has to be a partnership from the athletic director side with the boys committee. If the boys introduce shot clocks, which they also have a pilot program going as well. Even though our games look very different from an athletic director side and an organizational logistical side, it only makes sense if we add them together for both programs. And hopefully, you get that person in building who just loves lacrosse and wants to come and work that shot clock for all the schools for both programs, for both boys and girls programs.
The boys on the boys side, are they doing 2-year? Do you know which states are doing that? Say 2 states.
Well, I know New York is, but I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
It was more, there was no really crossover. Well, there's one crossover and he was not aware.
Gotcha. Okay. That'll be good. We meet with our boys lacrosse committee in February, that'll be something we can put on the agenda to talk through, see kind of where their thought process is with that. And then I think, to your point, it sounds like to make it work as efficiently as possible, that those two groups need to probably be in alignment, especially with somebody working the scoreboard or the shot clock. So,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we can make note of that. That's good.
Yes, so that will be a vote that comes, more than likely comes to our coaches that, and EDs that I will need.
For this year or?
That it will probably come up this year because of the pilot program being
Oh,
done.
okay. But not implemented this year?
No,
Okay.
so the implement typically takes anywhere from 2 to 4 years after it gets voted in. Yeah, so. Don't expect it soon, coach.
No.
Well, if we could pause just one quick second, I wanted to just take a minute. Mr. Kruger joined us this morning.
Thanks,
So I just
yeah.
wanna give him a second if that's all right.
Good morning to all of you. Kaylee, good morning. Good to see you. Back-to-back days. I just want to stop in really quick. Sorry. I was headed in here at 8:59 and then Sarah grabbed me and said, "Do you have a 9 o'clock meeting?" I'm like, oops. Yeah. So sorry for being a little bit late. I just want to say good morning. Thank you for all your work with the committee. Just like to recognize that so much of our structure and the way that our organization operates, committees are a huge leg of that piece. We've got our committee structure, we've got legislative council, we've got board of directors. I would tell you that committees drive so much of the direction we go, especially when we get down to individual sports. So, and or activities. But so the work you do today is really important. Obviously, it affects every young lady that plays lacrosse in our state. But we also look at comparing, between sports, what's working great for lacrosse, what can we learn from that? And so I just wanted to thank you for taking the time. I know you're all busy and you're gearing up for a season here shortly, but I just am really grateful. And I know our membership is as well. You have a phenomenal leader in your chair in Melinda. And so and thanks for helping Aaron get acclimated to Colorado and learning about girls lacrosse in our state. And just wanted to thank you for all that. So, yeah, thank you. Yeah, if you need anything, please stop by before you leave.
Thank you. All right, Melinda?
So next we have on our agenda is just our Coaches Association report. And at the moment, we don't really have a representation of our Coaches Association. And we are going to address that and kind of talk through that so that anyone watching this can start thinking about it. So we're going to move on to our CHSAA report.
Can I ask, could you make it clear what the expectations would be for someone who were to take over the Coaches Association?
Yeah, we'll
Or
talk
are we waiting
about,
at
yeah,
that?
we
Okay.
can kind of talk about that later because
Okay.
that's not really umbrella under CHSAA.
Yeah.
And so I think that's more of the discussion later. So we'll talk about that. So
Thank you.
So I'll give, Colette and I will give a CHSAA report, and I will lean heavily on Colette in terms of a recap of last year, because I would say it was not here in a part of last year's season. So I'll let Colette give a recap in terms of what she saw throughout the season, and then more specifically in terms of postseason championships. And then I'll talk a little bit about from a numbers perspective, from attendance for the past couple of years, and then I've got some other things that I'll jump into as well. So Colette, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, last year we had a great postseason. As usual, those first couple rounds, we always face some sort of weather situation. Especially at semifinals, always at Inglewood, we have something going on there. But we made it through that. I think at TU, the attendance was great. The atmosphere was incredible there. We crowned 2 state championships, and it was overall a great season that we had.
Any thoughts, feedback from our group in terms of postseason? I'm excited this year to obviously be there and get a feel for how things work and the experience of it. But what are thoughts in terms of, and I'll ask this group to kind of look at it from a couple different perspectives. One is from our coach's perspective. So, how are things from a logistics, communication, information, setup, all that kind of thing, the environment for our student athletes and coaches, our administrators, how is it from your lens, feedback from that end, whether it's the venues, those sorts of things. And then I think also we always try to keep in mind our spectator perspective as well. So parking, how easy is it to get in and out of it, tickets, all that good stuff. So, issues with, spectator behavior, we'll call it. But and obviously from our official standpoint, from your perspective, but what are thoughts off the top of your minds from championships postseason last year?
I think that I like the way the venues are set up, to be honest. I think
Okay.
they're nice. And I think playing at DU is fun and a cool experience for the kids.
Okay.
I think last year they separated the parents where one team was on one side and the other team was on the other. And I think that was good. But then one team is really close to the bench. So we had an issue 2 years ago where those parents were like chirping at our players.
So what's the?
But that's not DU, that's
That was at Englewood.
Englewood, okay. I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, not
Yeah, yeah.
DU because they're on the other side, which we had an issue at States too with our own kids.
Okay.
But our admin were there and shut it down, so I think that's fine. They'll come, I think, and help monitor. But I mean, from our perspective, I like both venues. Yeah. I think the only thing I would say is maybe those parents right behind the benches at Englewood.
So that's similar when we had a soccer, right? In terms of setup. Yeah, no, that's good feedback.
From some officiating points, one would be, the early rounds where we are spread across the whole state.
Okay.
As much as I realize how important it is for higher seeds to host, and especially if you're in a far-flung location, that means even more to those schools.
Yeah.
However, it is incredibly challenging to get the refs set for that because we are spread across the whole state. We have certain qualifications that refs must have in order to do the postseason, which we're already currently kind of brushing aside because we're just so desperate. And so if there's any chance we could think strategically about maybe combining a couple of our first round locations. For example, I think last year we had a first round game at Telluride and a first game round at Durango. And we had to have 3 higher level refs at each of those, which was impossible, quite frankly. And that happened in the Western, out in the Grand Junction area as well. So what's happening is we're ending up having to put only 2 officials on a postseason game, which is very unfair for those locations. If anything happens, a snowstorm, a twisted ankle, the ref's kid is sick, the whole thing blows up. So if there's something we can think about in terms of strategically placing those host sites, I think that would make a massive difference. And then also, it's easier for us to convince a front range official to travel out there because they'll get 2 games. Okay, so in the past, Justin has helped us a little bit with, if we've got a front range person that can go out there and help, can we pay for their hotel room or whatever, because sometimes we're sending them all the way down to Telluride.
Yeah.
That would be a really, really big help.
Okay.
It is something that as an officiating association, we are also trying to express clearly to our membership that we need everyone to kind of all hands on deck and be flexible. And this is an honor, but we need you to be flexible. And having CHSAA support on that has always been really, really useful.
Yeah.
And then there's a few little things, which we can even talk, Aaron, when we get closer to postseason, but I love to ref because I love giving back to this sport, but we take a lot of abuse, which is fine. It's part of it. But there's a couple little perks that go a long way, like reserving us a spot in the Englewood parking lot, or, you guys are always amazing at snacks and pins and stuff like that. That means a lot to our membership, that recognition, because it's helpful for us if we are able to show what a big, honor it is, because then people are more willing to put up with the higher level of, quite frankly, abuse, which happens for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Zoe, I think that those are really good things as we get 2 parts to that. So one, to your point about the scheduling piece, as we get closer to that, we can set up some times and bring in Monica as well to talk through that. So it makes sense. The other piece to that in terms of some of the incentives for our officials, I think we can definitely, we can do that. And Colette have had some conversations about that and have done some things. I think we had some things for like soccer that we did for our officials. So I think there's things we can continue to do that'll help with that. So let's keep that on our radar, and as we get closer, we can definitely have more conversation on that. I think that would be good. Okay.
If I can
and
talk
then-
about DU super quickly, like I love
Yeah.
that venue. And I didn't get to experience it on the girls' side, but on the boys' side, parking is kind of a nightmare at DU. And we know that. But we had a situation with both of our boys' games that a graduation was either coming in or getting out at the exact same time, like game was starting or our boys were trying to get to the field. And it made it really super ugly and tough to get in and out. And so, like, again, I love that venue. I think it's really cool. Our kids get to play there, but the time of year that lacrosse championships happen is the same time as graduations, and DU hosts a ton of those. And it can get pretty ugly pretty quick with the amount of people and trying to squeeze through and get in and out of the venue.
Trust me, I understand that completely from the operational sides of things and the cluster that happens near like that team check-in locker room area. Totally get that.
Yeah, I would just maybe relying on DU's security to help a little bit more with, they have those, like, I call them stanchions, but I don't think they're actually called stanchions because they're like those gated metal gates
Yeah.
where it's like, you know, let the team go through. Last year was a really cool experience. I will say this because like if I was part of Thunder Ridge, like I would have loved it to be the girls, like they missed their graduation. Thunder Ridge was playing and Thunder Ridge graduation was exiting and everyone stood on the hill and like watched for a little and it was a really cool experience. But like, yes, the getting in and out for some of the teams was what from the girls' side was a big deal with that. And just maybe relying on that security a little bit more to be like, we need you to stop this from happening for 5 minutes, just so the teams can get through and not have to weave around people.
Yeah.
And then move them around, because I'm pretty sure that we pay for their security. So they should help.
And we could maybe think about the timing a little more strategically, like when things are starting and stopping. I don't know if that's a possibility, but.
We had some, so those are great points, Helena and Kaylee and Zoe. And Colette was there, so for soccer, at boys soccer, the security that they had, I felt did a pretty good job in terms of helping manage that. So I think we will have a little bit better security, hopefully this year. You know, and if we can talk with Selena about that too, you know, but that's been on our radar.
Yeah.
That's one of the first things that Colette mentioned to me when we were talking about venues was the challenge with lacrosse graduations and all that kind of stuff. So that's definitely high on our radar. So we'll work extremely hard to try to combat some of that.
Yeah.
Parking, I got nothing. Sorry, Kaylee. I know it's not ideal by any means, but unfortunately, that's one of the things we just, you know, we got to roll with on that one. But yeah, so, but that's great feedback. I appreciate that. So a couple other things. Hunter, anything you want to add from an admin side on postseason venues, those sorts of things?
Oh, I think we've enjoyed our time at DU for sure.
Okay.
We like that venue a lot when we're there.
Good.
Yeah, great venue for sure.
Okay, good. And we'll continue to do the post-event, or excuse me, pre-event coaches and admin meetings, because those are helpful. If there are things that information from either our coach's perspective or administrator's perspective that you would like to see added to those meetings, let us know. We feel like those are helpful meetings. So, all right, a couple of things from, actually, I'm sorry, Colette, anything else you want to add from postseason recap from last year?
No.
Good, okay. Some numbers, quick numbers. So attendance wise, so we've seen an increase from 24 to 25. So 24 numbers, our attendance was 2246, and then last year we were at 2521 in terms of our semifinals and championships, which is great. And then you know, we are still a little bit down from our 23 numbers. That was 2854, but we're close. We're close. And obviously, I think who's playing kind of has a big part of that, and then weather is another piece of that as well. So we were unbelievably fortunate this fall in terms of the weather that we had. We're keeping our fingers crossed that we can have some great weather this spring. But you know, hopefully we can continue to see those attendance numbers rise. So, okay. Next thing I would like to talk about would be just kind of schools dropping, either adding or dropping programs.
I guess
Yeah.
actually just, I know that Chess is aware of it, but just to put it out in the open, like, girls' numbers across the state are dwindling in athletics. And so I would love to say, hey, attendance is, let's go higher, but I would say the likelihood of that happening at the moment with where we are is probably very low.
Low, okay. It would probably, so 25, I would say probably the 22 to 25 is probably what we'll see, you think, probably the next, at least next. Okay, yeah, makes sense. And the decline of participation numbers in general is a big issue, and we'll hopefully be able to come back to that at some point and talk more about that collectively, not just lacrosse, but collectively, because that's obviously something we never want to see. So, but no, it's a good point. It's a really good point. So schools or programs dropping or adding varsity programs. So right now, according to what we have on the clock, so we've got 27 teams in 4A with 2 new additions, and we've got 28 teams in 5A. So with 1 new addition. So right now in this, we're still getting folks information, but right now Liberty is the only new addition to 5A. And then the 2 4A additions are Palmer Ridge and Dawson School.
And this is for the next.
This is for the next cycle, yes. Yep, this is for the.
Dawson is
26-28.
actually a new program,
Yes,
and Palmer Ridge is,
Palmer Ridge is not a new program.
but dropping to
But
4A
dropping to
because they were
4A.
5A.
Yeah,
And
And
is
then-
Liberty Commons or Liberty?
just Liberty, yep.
Okay. And then I know that,
Liberty in Colorado Springs.
Yes, does that sound correct?
Yeah.
Kaylee?
Yeah, but they no longer have a program.
They do not have a program, okay.
No. yes, so that is something that I did harp on with my conference, and I think that we do need to possibly send something out. It's like, so like 2 years ago during clock, I guess it was 3 years ago for clock numbers, like Overland declared and Smoky Hill declared, but they're actually in a co-op with Eagle Crest this past year. Aurora Public Schools declared that Rangeview was gonna have a program, and they actually couldn't sponsor a program, and so it went into Aurora Public Schools, and then they dropped their program. They didn't even have a program last year. Casey is saying that they're trying, but so I love Have to Declare to Clock as an organization, but I think that we really need to press on these girls lacrosse numbers, because when we need to make, leagues, which I think we can talk about in a little bit, or it's actually not on this, that maybe that's an agenda item we need to talk about.
Yeah. I'll add that to the box here.
Talk about leagues, but like where, me being in charge of one of our leagues and thinking that we were gonna have 6 teams, and then it all became 4 teams with, 2 weeks before season, and then it actually became 1 team, 2 or 3 teams 2 weeks into season.
Yeah.
Last year was very challenging. So like I pressed to my other athletic directors, like you have to make sure that like girls lacrosse is really, your numbers are correct, or it's, oh, we have a program. We have a thriving program now. We're going to have a program next cycle. So.
Yeah, that's really important, because even, from here, what this is reflecting, and that's one of the things, I think Brian may be sending something out to about all sports in terms of declaring your program so that we can get more accurate numbers for all of our sports. And then the other piece of that is the league. So primary and then also secondary leagues. So to your point, that information is going to be really important as folks are putting together the leagues and putting together their schedules. So Kaylee, thank you for sharing that, because I've made a note to that to share with Ryan. If you all hear of any other programs that are either adding girls lacrosse or no longer going to have girls lacrosse, if you could let us know or have them reach out to us, that would be good, so we can make sure that this is updated and accurate information. So that'll be helpful. Okay, so we'll continue to track that. I do think it'll be good, Linda, to send something out. We can send something out just as a request. We did it for flag football. As we'll try to get those numbers as well, so we can send that out for girls lacrosse. Okay, the next thing, just kind of a 2026 postseason venues update. So we would like to continue with DU as well as Inglewood. So we're in the process of getting those two confirmed. So we'll get that information out. But those are the two sites that we would like to go with. So we're excited about continuing to be there. Getting any feedback we can get from you all from those, let us know. We want it to be a great experience for everybody. So semifinals, Inglewood, Tuesday, May 12th, Wednesday, 13th. Are our dates for semifinals, and the championships DU being Friday, May 15th and 2026. So
What was the semis?
semis would be Tuesday, May 12th, and then Wednesday, May 13th. And then the other one, last thing I had on mine was just kind of scheduling and inclement weather. I think this is probably more of just a reminder about scheduling around inclement weather and things like that. So just kind of giving our programs enough time to adjust to that. I know it's tough, especially in the state of Colorado with those wonderful late spring snowstorms, but and then I think the other piece is kind of not backloading schedules because of that. So Colette, is there anything else you want to add to that piece in terms of scheduling and inclement weather? Sorry, I asked you right when you were finishing that bite, sorry. Actually, what, okay, sorry, go ahead.
All good. No, just, I know that in some situations, it will be very difficult, especially if you're playing a game at the end of the season, weather looks bad, to try and have to make up a game, anything like that. And given the length of the season, I know it's difficult to try and keep your schedules in some sort of balance where they're not all at the end, but just keep in mind that weather does pop up, and try your best to be able to make schedules where you have a little bit of leeway when it comes to potential weather that could happen.
Anyone want to add anything on that? So,
And I do think that if we are in a crunch, finding times to, again, put two games in one location will help you with referee coverage.
okay. Thank you. So any other thoughts on scheduling? Anything like that? Okay. All right. Those were the main updates that we wanted to provide. Absolutely. Would love to hear feedback from you all as things are going out throughout the season. Looking forward to this upcoming season, which will be good. So with that, I know we're going to hopefully wait for Sam here to join us shortly, but let's go ahead and jump into our discussion item. So first one we've got on our discussion item would be the postseason award process. So Melinda and Melinda, you want to and Kelsey, do you want to jump on those two?
I feel like it's almost entangled with the coaches association, to be honest.
Okay.
Cause last year the conferences changed, and it feels like, so our team switched conferences, and I learned it seems like each conference kind of does things differently. And the postseason awards, which I don't even know if it matters, but like, it seems like the coaches in the conference can kind of decide what they want to do. It's like you have to submit these, this first team so they can be considered for all state, but you can also give out like defensive player of the year, attacking player, midfielder of the year, overall player of the year. So then it almost gets like out of hand. And so I was wondering if it can just be, and I think they did send out guidelines last year from the Coaches Association for it. But like I said, it's like you submit this to the Coaches Association, but within the meeting, you can still add on stuff. And I don't know if it matters because I don't know where these awards even go. Like they're not published anywhere.
Yeah, so I can talk.
That's
from
one
from-
piece of my postseason awards.
Okay. All right, so yeah, so the Coaches Association last year did send out something because I will say that during COVID, things went a little crazy. And so where there were some leagues that were holding the traditional 4 attackers, 3 midfielders, 4 defenders, 1 goalie. And then you had one league in particular in 5A who there was 20 first team members. And so there was guidelines put in last year with, so for all league, we are not there. The Coaches Association, all state will not accept anything more than 4 attack, 4 midfield, 4 defense, 1 draw specialist, and 1 goalie. And then you can have a player of the year and a coach of the year. If a league, truthfully, from an athletic director's perspective, wants to have an attacker of the year, midfielder of the year, defender of the year, and break that up and give more awards, an athletic director is not going to stop that. We're gonna be like, cool, more awards for more, like, exciting. But that does not, those people would need to have a first team all honor to get that.
Right.
But again, that doesn't, the player of the year and stuff doesn't go it doesn't go anywhere. It's just a certificate to a student who gets it. The first team is, how many did I count? 4, 8, 12.
Who
13,
gives it?
14.
Like, I'll print them out and give them out at my banquet.
Yep.
But is it,
That's it.
that's it?
That's it.
Okay.
And it can live in your league. It can live in your, live in your league's database. So like my league, or the Centennial League, we have a database that all awards live in, and we tried to share it so that there's an archived history of it. But and it's just in the Google error, and then your school can determine if they want to write something about it. Like Cherry Creek School District is really good at writing their articles because they have an SID within their school district. Mullen, we don't have an SID, and we try to post things on Instagram and we put them in our archive, but like where it doesn't, they get a Mullen article, but it doesn't like go to the newspaper or anything. It's not,
Okay.
it's not like in our old days where, it went into the
Yeah,
local newspaper and
like-
stuff. So it's a certificate. All State does, it lives within CHSAA. And Amanda is in charge of All State now. So we do have a representative at CHSAA who is in charge of the All State. And so each league representative, so each czar, so I'm the czar for my Girls Lacrosse League. And so I pass this off to Amanda. And then she puts it into the All State ballot, which coaches do vote on. And then that lives in CHSAA, and CHSAA does an article about All State. And then if your girls do get All State, your athletic director should be printing something from the CHSAA certificate that they have, and giving to your student athletes. And then if you make All State, that's when you get to be nominated for All American. So it's
Okay.
a process.
So I have so many feelings about the postseason awards.
Mhm.
So and I've been on these different conferences, and I think it's great to get more awards, but you almost don't know as a coach what you can and can't do. And so then it's not equitable. So then some of these kids are getting like attacker of the year, which is great, awesome. And then when they're like doing their profiles for recruiting, they're putting it there, which is good. I just feel like if there's leniency, all the conferences should know that. So that way kids can get all these like honorable, like I've been in a conference before where it was like anyone who was nominated got honorable mention, which is great. Cause then,
That is typically the overarching rule, but then, so in your bylaws, in your league bylaws, and this is one of the struggles that we have with girls lacrosse, and maybe some other sports. Athletic directors have bylaws for each sport and how many people can be nominated. And so it's really up to your athletic directors and who's ever in charge of like whoever is the czar, to make sure the bylaws talk about postseason play. So in typical, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it's hard for girls lacrosse because each league only has 6. And so it should be the first place team can nominate 9 people. The second place team can nominate.
this is for all conference.
This is for all conference, like all league.
Okay.
9. The second place team can do 7, the third place team can do 5, the fourth place team. And so whatever the structure is, usually it starts with 12, it actually doesn't start with 9. But so like if you win your conference, you get to nominate, let's just say 10, I'm just gonna say 10. And then so if 4 of your girls make first team, all conference, then clearly they don't get second, and you have 3 girls on second team, and then your remaining 3 are honorable mention. And so everybody who is actually nominated, they get an award.
But what I'm saying, like whoever is supposed to be managing that doesn't happen.
So that is you have a new athletic director.
We have a new AD, but in years past, Bailey would just run our meetings.
Correct.
And then,
Okay, and I ran the meetings before Bailey.
yeah, and
So this
then
is-
after that, we did have an AD at our meeting last year, but it wasn't like, oh, first, first, whoever got first had a certain
Yeah.
second. That's
Yeah.
not how we,
So.
I think we follow the rules somewhat, but it's
Yeah,
not like to the blood.
I'm gonna tell you, it's very challenging, as an athletic director with the, crossover leagues.
That's what I was gonna say too. I don't even know what my league is called, to be honest, as a
Yeah,
coach.
well, that's-
let alone
I-
an AD, like-
As the czar and as the committee chair and, in the girls lacrosse, I don't know what my league's called either. Yeah. I don't know what my league's called. And I will say that, 2 years ago okay, so just for some history, before I came, and maybe Zoe has more history than I do, the year before I moved to Colorado, in I believe 16 or 17, the actual coaches association and CHSAA sat down and made the leagues, right? And made the leagues for what was tried to keep leagues that are actual leagues together, like Fairview is in Boulder County. What is your actual league, like your school's league you're in?
Front Range, I think.
Front Range, you're right.
Yeah.
Front Range, I knew that. Front Range. And then so what the Coaches Association and CHSAA at the time, whoever the commissioner was, sat down and made the leagues. And there was so much inequity where you had, and just being very front, and because I came into this where it's like Mullen is in the Centennial League, and we had Cherry Creek who had won, 10 at the time? They were on their 9th that year. And you had Overland who could barely roster a team in the same league. And we're calling games in 40 minutes because we're playing 7 men down. And so what the previous commissioner did was sat down with a few of the coaches, got input by a few of the coaches, with the ex president of the Coaches Association, talked to me about leagues, and CHSAA did the leagues again 2 years ago to try to make it equitable. And so that's why we have new leagues that last year and then this year, to try to make it equitable, to try to stay within classifications and clock, but at the same time understanding, and again, I'm only talking about Cherry Creek schools because that is my league, but like having Smoky Hill, Overland, and Eagle Crest in a 5A lacrosse, trying to make it equitable for playing in a 5A lacrosse, that is, it's not fun,
Right.
And so we tried to make the leagues according to, or the classifications according to also ability, history of the program, school size, with staying in the CHSAA guidelines, as well as playing equity. What is the word I'm trying? Competitive equity. I apologize.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of the word. Because, and so there are 5A school sizes that are playing in the 4A league right now. And so the leagues for both boys and girls lacrosse have been kind of an ebb and flow, and classifications because of competitive equity for the programs. And what have they done in the past 4 years? Has there been a close game? No, maybe you should be dropped down to 4A, even though you're a 5A school. And so the leagues are ebbing and flowing based off of we have really good programs, and we're, for those of us who are in or were in the club world, our club teams tend to feed to certain schools in the state. And you can be a 4A size school and be really competitive at 5A because those teams flow, the club teams flow there. And so we're trying to make sure we're supporting new growth, but understanding that we do have some schools that are the top of the cream of the crop in our state, even though they're 300. I mean, I don't even know how many people are in your high school, but CA has 400 kids in their high school, and they're always a top program for both girls and boys lacrosse. And so it's just that competitive equity is a piece, and so the leagues have ebbed and flowed due to that. And so we do need to talk about leagues and what we're gonna do with clock. It's not gonna happen right now because we do need to get numbers, but we're gonna have to have a meeting. This group is gonna have to have another meeting in the next few months to talk about what we're doing with leagues and where Aaron feels comfortable going with leagues. So he's gonna have to also talk with Mike and the other commissioners to figure out, do we still want to worry about the competitive equity piece and put teams where we want to put them? Or are we just going to say, you're in your league and we might have to combine some leagues? Because that's up to the CHSAA clock committee. Truthfully, I think we as a committee will suggest something to the clock committee with what leagues should look like, but it doesn't really happen for any other programs from my perspective of it being in this role for the past 5 years. For football is placed in leagues via the committee / clock, and we have with girls and boys lacrosse for the last few years too, because there not being a lot of programs.
Go ahead, Kelsey.
You gotta get back to your.
Yeah, so I understand lacrosse is always ebbing and flowing, so I know why there's issues. But I guess with All-American, like it builds. Like I just, from a coach's perspective, I've definitely had players who should have been All-Americans who were not All-Americans. And so I think that I don't know how you fix that, because I know it has to do somewhat with participation from coaches to actually vote. And then people aren't voting because their kids aren't in it. And so
I have a suggestion. I mean, we're looking at, as we continue in this discussion item, we're gonna be talking about Coaches Association. What if there was, I hate to say subcommittee, but a group of us who could take over the postseason awards thing and streamline the process so that every league gets a best practices list, right? Or standard operating procedures or whatever. And then someone in the Coaches Association is overseeing, hey, this league, I need all your votes. This league, I need all your votes. And I know that's a pain in the butt, but I bet there's a couple people that we can find who care about it.
I care about it.
And I care about it. And I know that the officials care about it, because sometimes we see stuff from coaches or players that we're like, that person should not be getting an award because they've done some egregious things.
Yeah, so my first question, and like, again, where it all goes back to the Coaches Association, is who is our Colorado US lacrosse All-American representative now? Because it was Bailey,
Right.
and then I'm pretty sure it went from
It was that guy.
and then it went to Terry.
No, there was another guy who would help with it. He was, I
Was it
thought
Kevin?
Brumfield or
Kevin Mortimer.
No, that was
Jerry or.
that was a long time ago. So, and I don't know who our US lacrosse rep is. And so I think that's something that we can find out. But again, like, that really lived in with Kevin, it lived in the Coaches Association. And then I know it's flip-flop from just the circle of coaches, carousel of coaches we've had in the past,
Yeah.
since COVID.
I do a lot of work with US Lacrosse for our state. So I can work on trying to figure that out too. Maybe you and I could partner.
Yeah, because I feel like the coaches, because it doesn't sound like this stuff falls under CHSAA, it falls under
Correct.
the Coaches Association.
Correct.
So, okay.
Yeah.
And so Coaches Association, I think that we need to really have a call out and understand and really, maybe dive into I'm gonna say X's and O's of the coaches, but like, who's been a long tenured coach in Colorado anymore? Who wants to be involved in the Coaches Association. Like I said, 5 years ago, we had a hard time. There was no dues collected, right? So before, like, you voted,
Yeah.
there were dues.
I remember paying dues, like, again, when we would meet in person.
Yeah.
There
yeah,
was
yeah,
dues.
That was a while ago. Yeah. So, but half the coaches, or more than half, didn't pay
I
the
believe that.
dues. And so, like, one of the things with US Lacrosse is you had to pay your due to vote. If you didn't pay your due, your vote didn't count. And so, like, where I think what needs to happen is that, a kind of a roll call needs to happen with the coaches. And it's like, we need coaches who want to get involved, want to be part of association. You're not going to have a lot to do. We just, meet a few times a year quickly to talk about things. Who wants to be in charge of US Lacrosse? Who wants to be, in charge of the postseason play? who we got rid of our senior game, right? Have we had a senior game?
I don't think I've ever been, yeah, I don't know.
Not for
Yeah,
years.
Maybe,
My
yeah.
last year, I sent two girls, so that was 5 years ago. My last year coaching, that was 5 years ago, which is crazy. It feels so short ago. I sent two girls, so we don't have a senior game anymore. And so not having a coaches association, I think is letting things slip through the cracks. Like, I agree with you. People who should be All-Americans are not All-Americans. That's what we talked about when I was in leagues. We talked about, like, you're voting for people based off of stats, not actually seeing them, right? When I was in the college, like, all-American committee, like, I said that then too. It's like, have you ever, and this is dating me, but like Michelle Tumalo, her freshman year, like, I'm like, you don't think she's an All-American? Like, have you ever watched her play? Like, and so we need coaches who want to vote for these kids who have seen them play, not just stats. So we need a roll call for coaches who really do love this game.
And 4A and 5A, like, that's when it falls to stats, because you have monsters in 4A who play like these teams that aren't great. Their stats are so high, like so high. And then you have like kids in 5A who are playing like good competition. Their stats aren't as high as 4A kids.
But that's truthfully also just like, having that subcommittee, having an All-American subcommittee of like, hey, these votes are awesome, but are we missing someone, or is this someone's stats are so high? But it's challenging because you have to respect everyone's votes. You have to respect what the time that there are coaches that want to put in. But then knowing that there is that gray area that should be discussed as human beings, in a room with people who watch film, who
Or stakeholders.
are real big stakeholders.
Well, so I was on that, I used to be on that committee when I coached coached high school in Colorado. And it was like very clear US lacrosse regulations, and there's room for us.
Well, that's what I'm like, like in all conference, like we vote, but then there is those conversations like these kids should get honored regardless of the team. We're like, the coaches agree these kids need to get honored in a way. And so like with All-American, can you have those conversations, or is you like, say lacrosse, like, no, it has to be the vote?
No, it used to be like a committee came in.
Would come
There needs
together.
to be conversation.
Yeah, it was, I
Yes.
mean, when Kevin was in charge of it the first 2 years, because, I mean, I had two players that how are they not All-Americans? Like, I was like, I want to be on that table, and there was 3 people at the table. And so where I didn't get to that table, but there used to be conversations that there was like a committee of 3 who would go through and say, these votes are so close, let's talk about them and really actually think about this. So
I feel like we could really create something.
But who's in charge of I feel like I'm derailing this whole meeting, but who is in charge of the coaches association? Like who?
coaches,
So
There's
it's-
nobody.
there's nobody. And so that's the thing, is you have to have a leader within the coaches. And so that's why I was saying we have to I'm willing to help dig deeper into the coaches who, like, I mean, I think you can pull like how many years
Yeah, I
each
think it
coach
has
has
to
been
be
at a
like-
school, but like where, I just think of, Creek used to have the same coach for multiple years, and CA had coaches for multiple years. I was at Mullen for five years before I stepped down, and we've had 2 coaches since, and so like you have been, this is your 8 or 7.
my 8th year, and I'll be there forever. So I'm willing to help. So
Yeah.
let me know.
And I mean, I've been on a few phone calls, and I think there are some coaches who might have stepped away for a few years that might be coming back and want to get back involved, but the coaches have to get involved. And I really think that the coaches, and you can talk to other, some other coaches, but really rely on Colorado High School Coaches Association that's based out of Colorado Springs, and work with them. I think that's what the Boys Coaches Association does as well. They work with, how do you say that acronym?
Who do they work with?
Chaska?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out, like who's
Chaska.
that body? Okay.
Yeah,
Wait, what's
So then, and then maybe I'll ask Terry, since he was the last person.
yeah. Have you
Okay.
seen we reached out to Terry and didn't hear back. Terry, we love you, so reply to Aaron.
Put up
Um,
6 months.
Yeah, I don't know if Terry's still as back at Regis, but I think that they're this year, but I think that there's a lot of opportunities with coaches that want to be involved and can be involved, but I think that the burden of like, oh my God, I'm gonna have so much to do, but you really don't. You really don't have so much to do if there's a bunch of you.
Right, because you could delegate some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and I
so-
would say Melinda and I are lucky as league czars, right? Because we have the girls lacrosse background. And so like our league meetings probably run much smoother because we understand like the intricacies of girls lacrosse. But most league czars across the state have no idea how girls lacrosse works, how it runs and things like that. And so like they let coaches kind of take the lead on the meetings, and if coaches aren't all on the same page, then it can get off the rails quickly. So I think if we can get a coaches association that's like, hey, here's how our league meetings should run so that we can get the right all-state kids in place and we can get the right all-American girls in place. Like, I think that would help other league czars immensely too.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yes, I think that we can work together with Colette and get some email addresses. I know that the first email just went out the other day for ADs to make sure that their girls lacrosse coaches information was correct and up to date. But I think there are people who want to participate and help in this. It's just someone actually possibly needs to call and ask them and not just send emails, because like my girls lacrosse coach got 5 emails from me yesterday, and I don't think all coaches read these.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to know which coaches, and their years. So then it's like,
Yeah,
but I do think we have some people that I can think off the top of my head have been here for a few years that I think would be invested.
yeah. And like I said, I'm happy to help work through that with you. And it sounds like Zoe can also help with that from the official side. Yeah, so the only, or is that it?
Yeah, that was it. Thank
Okay.
you.
And then the only thing that kind of brought up in my head was just, and this would go back to the Coaches Association, is participation numbers are continuing to dwindle for girls lacrosse in the state of Colorado. And so I think that if the Coaches Association can get going, like put out a blueprint possibly of even like just, hey, how do you run little camps? Right. I am a soccer mom. I am a boy mom, but I'm a soccer mom, and watching these young girls leave soccer pretty early now, I'm like, oh my God, go play lacrosse. And like, so I've gotten a few of my boys' older siblings, their friends, older siblings to like get a stick in their hand, come to practice. I've passed during practice with some of these girls that have played soccer in the club world, club world for a few years now, and now they're 9, 10, getting out of it. And like where I'm teaching them the basics, and like where I think that maybe, talking with the, if we can get a coaches association to go and like, be like, we need to get sticks in little kids' hands, and like, don't worry about your program next year. Think about your program in 5 years, 10 years from now. Like if you can get sticks in little kids' hands and have like a 2-hour clinic at your school with your high school girls working it, and you even just have 5 girls there, or any other school that is willing to, I think that we really need to start talking about the participation numbers as a whole of this program and thinking about it, and the coaches who do love this sport, how can we get sticks in little kids' hands from an early age? And again, if when we get the Coaches Association up and running, I think that's one of the big topics that we need to think about. And because when we start talking about clock and leagues, I think we're gonna see a dwindle in our high school programs. I know that the numbers say one thing, but I do think that we're gonna see, I don't think we're gonna see 63 teams
You think
next
so?
cycle.
Okay.
No. So we're done with the discussion topics, and so is Sam possibly
Sam
here,
is
or
on, I think.
Kaylee, do you have anything else? Sorry,
No.
I know.
No,
Okay,
you guys are good. I've been popping in when I need to, so appreciate
Okay.
it. I think these are conversations that are probably overdue. So
overdue, definitely. If Sam's, we only have the officials report left.
Yes. Sam, I think, can you hear us okay?
Hi, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thanks for joining us. We'll go ahead and jump right into your items on the officials report.
Okay, wonderful. So just a quick update on our registration. We have about 50 officials registered. 10 are new. Those numbers aren't bad, but we are always looking for more officials. So if there's any way that CHSAA, schools, anyone can help us do some recruiting, I sent Aaron a flyer, and the bare minimum would be if that could just get shared around, that would be wonderful. And as always, if anyone hears anyone interested, please send them our way. We're happy to take people, teach people, and get them on the field. So one big question, I don't know, and if something's already been discussed, please, feel free to cut me off and tell me this has been discussed and I can get an update later. I don't want to waste any time. But play day, that should be the 28th. It usually happens the Saturday before regular season begins. And I'm wondering if anyone has news on if it's being organized, if anyone knows who's organizing it.
That's usually the Coaches Association.
Right.
So Sam, one of the things we've been talking about is how we don't really have a Coaches Association right now.
Yep.
So last year, I do think that, I think that Maggie started the document. Your Maggie, official Maggie. I think that Maggie started the Excel sheet that, CHSAA sent, that Colette sent out to the, ADs and coaches saying, hey, if you're having a play date, put it on here now. We only have officials for 4 locations. And so it was a first come, first serve. And then like my coach went in, saw, or I let her know who was playing, and she reached out to one of the locations that was chosen to participate in it. So where I'm pretty sure that Maggie said, hey, we can have a Western Slope, 1 location, and then we can have 3 in the Denver area so that we can train the new officials. And so I do think it was actually a partnership. I don't think it was the Coaches Association last year. It used to be, but I think it was kind of a partnership within this room last year. So we can talk about that after we're done the meeting.
Okay. Yeah, we can certainly discuss this more, and we can send something out inquiring if schools are already planning something. But yeah, we want to try to restrict ourselves more, because in the past we've been spread really thin and it actually isn't as beneficial for our training needs as we would like. So I think we are going to start saying, we won't promise we will staff every location and every game at every location, because it really is our time to get new refs on the field with some guidance and oversight. But yeah, if you think that's the best way to go, we can. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, who just gave all of that information? I apologize.
Melinda.
Okay. Great. And then, so there are some stick stringing that we're concerned about going into the season. And I've put together some pictures, but at a high level, and I'm happy to talk more in depth if we want. Last year, the USAL came out and said the Gay Apex 2 has not been approved. It is not a legal stick. They were doing a buyback program. That is still true, and there is no grace period. If we see a Gay Apex 2, it is illegal. It will not be allowed on the field. And then there have been some other stringings where we're seeing some like coils or string on the back of the stick, trying to create a ledge for the draw. I've sent photos along. I'm in communication with USAL about this, and that stringing is illegal. I'm trying to get better wording so I can clearly communicate why it's illegal for when people ask. But that is illegal, and that will not be allowed on the field unless we hear differently. And then this other one is minor, but just a reminder that the stringing has to be attached to the head of the stick. There have been instances where it's actually strung to a string that runs along the sidewall, and that is also illegal. And then the next topic, so the 10-goal timing rule. I'm sure most are aware, but during the regular season, if one team gets ahead by 10 goals, the clock runs for almost everything except for team timeouts and injury timeouts, and of course, quarter breaks and whatnot. And if anyone was at the 4A final last year, you would have noticed that that rule did not go into effect.
By
we as-
mistake or?
No, that was
Under-
apparently
It's a CHSAA
the
rule.
ruling, the decision.
Well, I'll tell
Because-
you, I've been in that situation by CA and it's like you just want the game to end.
Yeah. That's
So
what
that is
everyone
how we
says.
felt.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's exactly how we felt. And we were texting, we were saying, hey, this clock needs to run. And through the grapevine, it came down to say, Justin with CHSAA has said no. The determination was to give the players the full amount of time. But we felt the same way. So happy to hear others did. And ultimately, I'm bringing this up because trying to prevent it happening in the future. I don't want this to happen again, if assuming coaches and teams also felt this way.
I think we do.
That's Kelsey, that's Coach Kelsey from Fairview saying that, yes, she.
Yes,
totally
let it run.
agrees.
So that is a CHSAA rule that would need to, we can talk about a little more, but I think that is an overarching post-play rule per all sports in CHSAA, that we do not have running clocks in playoffs. I can look into that. We can look into that and see what that is. I know that I had the same questions because I was sitting there, watching some of my old club girls play. And I'm like, oh my God, this game is taking forever. We need to end this. And having the conversation last year with Sailor, and it's, from my understanding, it's a full CHSAA rule. We do not, postseason, we let the clock go. We play all 60 minutes.
But that would be
Or
just
whatever
for
it is.
the finals, right? Because I'm almost certain we don't play that in the early rounds of postseason. Because I think in the
it's-
early rounds,
I believe it's supposed to be all postseason, but because it's not overseen by CHSAA because we have home field advantage. Well, it's, yes, a CHSAA sanctioned event. A CHSAA I'm going to call you a committee member, is not there, even though athletic directors are representations of CHSAA. Not all ADs know the rules, but we are supposed to follow postseason play per CHSAA rules.
okay.
But
Okay.
we can look into that and bring that back up at our later date.
One of the things I think too, cabling that essentially, but getting feedback from coaches and administrators, so we could look into potentially sending something out to gather feedback on, who would be opposed to, moving away from that potentially, and who would prefer to keep it the way it is. So I think obviously we'll have further conversations on it, but it'll also give us an opportunity to gather more feedback from coaches and administrators on, what that could look like. So that's good
Okay.
feedback.
Is
Okay.
this something that we will potentially be able to have resolved by the postseason of this year?
I would say not this year, no.
No, it wouldn't be able to come to a vote. Any voting that happens this year takes effect next year in the next cycle.
Okay.
So we got running clock even at semifinals last year and they let it run.
That's what I
think
thought
we-
as well.
Yeah.
I think it's just go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so I was part of that conversation with Justin last spring during that final game, and it became quickly apparent that none of the officials were aware of that fact that was a CHSAA rule. So I'm not surprised at all that there was running clock up until that final game.
Okay.
Like in those scenarios. So I think we need to tackle this, before the postseason.
I do too, because honestly, from a coaches and players perspective, it is like to stop the clock and keep the game longer than it needs to be. It's not a good feeling.
I get you.
I would agree with that. It's been a long time since I personally been on the field in that situation, but I can remember.
Yeah, and thinking of those like early round games, right? Where we're having our top seeds play lower seeds, like
Those games would take forever.
that's gonna get miserable very quickly.
And especially, that's where I was thinking there are definitely early round games that we hit a 10-goal difference. Those games would be very, very long if we had stop clock. Okay. So
Thanks for bringing that, Sam.
okay. So there's nothing more on our part that I or the board should do about this. This is kind of now in CHSAA's court. Is that correct?
Yeah, that we'll have further conversations about it. We'll get some more information and feedback, and then we'll be able to really kind of direct what the next steps will be.
Okay, great. Please just let me know if there's anything we can do to support or be a part of it. And so another point that came about in the playoffs last year was we had an official whose daughter played for Green Mountain, and this official did not work those games as an official, but she would do the stats at the table at almost every Green Mountain home game. And we as a board would have conversations with her about professional conduct. She's always representing officials, even when she's at the table and whatnot and so forth. But the decision was made that she was not going to be allowed to work the table at, I think it was just the final. Zoe, correct me if I'm wrong. Was it also the semifinal? But at some point in the playoffs, she was told she can't work stats at the table anymore. And I, as far as I understand, that was also a CHSAA decision. And so I think we just want clarification on, we also had another official as well whose daughter played for Valor. So this has come up in more than just one instance. But I think we just want clarification, communication. Well, I think we as a board have come to an understanding that we aren't going to impose or try to tell officials that they can't work the table for their child's games. If we have issues with conduct, we have brought those up, but they can certainly be at the table. That's their choice. So I'm wondering if that was a CHSAA determination or how that should be communicated in the future.
Okay, so I'll speak to this. So if they are not wearing their stripes, they are a parent. And therefore, the officials need to treat them like parents. And if you feel that you are being verbally abused or accused or belittled or any of those words that are trigger words from the parent who is at the table, that is a conversation straight to the administration, the administrator in charge. So hopefully when you guys go to schools, the administrator in charge or the game day manager presents themselves to you. If not, my team tries to do a good job with that. If not, then it's to the home coach, and then bringing it up to your officials association, which it sounds like it has been. And then you guys are working with Mike Book, who is overseeing the officials, as well as Aaron, who's in charge of girls lacrosse. And the three of you, the Sam, now you're in charge of your officials, Mike Book and Aaron will all come together with an agreement of what that is. If you were getting verbally abused by those two humans that I do love to death, it's not appropriate. And they need to have the ability to step out of their stripes and be parents. And if they cannot, then it would come from Aaron or Mike Book saying to the ADs in charge is this person actually cannot do this anymore because they are verbally abusing us most games. And so,
yes.
Yeah.
I want to be very clear. We didn't have an issue to that extent by any means. These, there was an issue with one at one game, and they were very receptive when we had this discussion, and we didn't have issues at future games. They knew to remove themselves when they needed to. That all got cleaned up. So that certainly.
What is your question then?
My question was that come the final game, a parent was told they weren't allowed to do the stats book because they were, and I believe the issue was because they were also an official.
Oh.
Yeah, that's where I'm coming from, is that they're not wearing stripes. So as you just said, they are a parent. And as a parent, they were told they're not allowed to do stats.
Who were they told they could not?
Justin ultimately laid down the decision because Sam,
There had to have been an incident.
there was an incident. And remember, there was an incident with each one of those parents in the last year prior to the postseason. And so Justin ultimately was like, I'm not comfortable with this. It's coming from me. I'm gonna say no.
Okay, yeah, and that is respecting the person who's in charge. And that was the assistant commissioner who was in charge of girls lacrosse. And like, well, I'm gonna say, we're not gonna put any rules in place for that. That's just a conversation between adults, and then understanding that who's ever in charge at the event is in charge at the event. And if that person does not feel comfortable with that parent being at the table, I mean, we deal with it as athletic directors all the time. I just had that conversation. I'm not having someone be in charge of our basketball scoreboard anymore because they yell at the officials from the scores table or they coach their child, and so that is an event director's ruling, I guess,
Okay.
and we just have to respect that.
Yep, no, I hear that, and I guess maybe I had missed that point that the decision was based on incidents earlier in the year. So along those
What is
lines,
the Ballard?
What?
What was the concern with the Ballard Act coaching, reffing other games?
He got involved in some conversations, kind of with a ref hat on, even though he was sitting at the table as a parent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think there was an added level of pressure between him and maybe the clock in that game.
Okay, but it's not like a bias with reffing other games.
No, I think it's like inserting themselves in
Yeah.
places that a non-ref parent, they never would have done that.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, and it just made the refs uncomfortable enough.
Sure.
And I think it made the parents of the other team uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the boundary that needs to come from athletic director and the head coach of like, when you're here, you're a parent and you have to be unbiased. Like if you're sitting at the table, you're at field level, you have to be unbiased. You can't cheer obnoxiously loud. You can't argue with officials. You can't coach your kid. Like you're here to do stats, and it's almost as if you are an official, right? Like you've got to stay super unbiased, which is hard for some parents.
yes, and
And again-
I mean, the point there is that it's hard for all parents, not just parents who are also officials. And so I think coming out of this, what I'm learning now is that moving forward, we as officials and then maybe athletic directors, I just want to make sure we're holding all parents to that standard. And this decision wasn't made because these parents are also officials,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
And as we talked about already, like our sport is getting smaller and smaller, so we do expect a lot of people to wear a lot of hats. So
Okay.
just respecting the hat we're wearing at the moment.
Yep, that sounds great.
New rules?
Yeah, so I have a section on new rules and some points of emphasis. I don't know if new rules already went over, so I certainly don't have to go over these. But some points of emphasis, there's more than just what I'm going to talk about here. True for both of these. I've just picked out the ones that I think are most applicable and going to be the most impactful. So one point of emphasis is efficient timing between a goal and a draw. So it's not necessarily the draw setup, but that the subbing and the stick exchanging and the huddles, everything needs to be more efficient so we can cut that time. And that's going to come from both sides. We as officials need to be a little more on that, whistling players back to get set, but coaches also need to be encouraging their players to hustle, substitute efficiently, get your stick exchanges done efficiently. Maybe don't send the injured player who needs extra time getting on and off the field to go exchange a stick. And kind of along the same lines, just in general, delay of game and for officials to be using the green card more. So it can include the above scenario, also very applicable to the draw setup. If players aren't cooperating and getting the draw set up, they're encouraging us to use our green card, as well as penalty administrations, particularly in the midfield with free movement. If that player is fouled and the whistle's blown and the player who is fouled stops, the player who committed the foul either needs to go 4 meters away or behind, but not greater than 4, so they can't take off running down the field. And we're being encouraged to go into our delay game procedures for players that repeatedly do that. And so some new rules, I linked to the website that has them all, but the most impactful when a possession timeout is called and the goalie has possession in the goal circle, the restart's going to be at the closest dot. It will not be back in the goal circle, and any player may take the ball. And then if a player draws illegally, the free position is at the spot of the ball rather than back at the center line, and it may be by any player on the field of play at the time of the foul. So there's more than that, but I think those are the ones we'll see the most frequently. In some editorial changes, they've cleared up what is meant by eye shade and what is clearly legal and not legal. We do see this a lot. And eye shade is now what we're calling what was eye black. So eye shade is one solid stroke, a single color. It can't go beyond the width of the eye socket, and it can't go below the cheekbones. So the little sevens that players like to do, or the big triangles, those aren't allowed. There's no words, numbers, logos, or symbols allowed, just one solid stroke. We hate policing this, but it is something in the rule book. And then another clarification. So if a player receives a yellow or red card, and then they receive an additional card during the same stoppage of play. So for example, if a player is carded for a slash, and during the administration of the card, that player then uses profanity or is disrespectful, so now they're going to get another card. The way that this is penalized is that obviously the player receiving the cards goes off to serve a card, and then the coach will choose an additional player who will come off and also serve the second card concurrently. So 2 players will be taken off of the field at that one time. If one of the cards was red, the player who's issued the card will serve the red card, and the other player would serve the yellow card. So hopefully that clears that up.
But then that player's out, right? That's their 2 yellows? Okay.
Yeah,
And
correct. The player, yep.
This was a big discussion, that came from, another section. Have we seen this in Colorado at all?
There was a scenario in the state semifinal or final, maybe the state final 4 years ago.
Okay.
I can't remember, but a kid was coming off, said something icky. It turned into a red, and then I can't remember exactly the procedure that
We
happened
did
after
the
that.
4 minutes of one player off.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, okay. I was like, I feel like
But
I've
it was
never.
a double card. It was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
she came off because she got
Yeah.
her second yellow card,
Yeah.
and then on her way off the field, she got the red.
Yeah,
But why, the 2 cards aren't served at the same time? They're like stacked?
so they were, and that's what we, as the rules committee, we put it into place that if you get if one player gets a consecutive card, so like, right, you check me to my head, you get the yellow card, you decide to say something nasty to the ref on your way off, you get your second yellow card, which turns into a red,
Or a red card.
or just a red card.
Yeah.
That before it would be, it was kind of up into interpretation because it wasn't truly clear, like, do they serve 4 minutes man down straight? And then so what we did in the rules committee is we changed it to there's 2 players down for 2 minutes.
Got it, okay.
She's done,
Yeah,
but
okay, but instead
but
of 4
it's-
minutes.
instead of
okay.
4 minutes, it's two players down for 2 minutes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because it's not consecutive. You got it this time, girl.
Mhm.
So your team's gonna suffer because of a decision you made. That's what it came down to.
Yes. And so that's considered an editorial change in the rule book, not a rule change. I think just to make that very clear so that everyone's doing the same thing.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other questions about rule books or anything?
I think that's good. Thank you, Sam.
Okay, and then I think we just a couple reminders that if these can be emphasized or clarified for teams going in this season, the sphere that protects players' heads is 7 inches. So that is essentially shoulder to shoulder. And it can be the most beautiful check in the world, but if that check goes through the sphere at all at the high school level, it's illegal. So players need to keep their sticks out of the spheres of everyone else, and themselves. And then that there has been an emphasis in years on protecting the head, neck, shoulder, and back. And so obviously we have our yellow cards, which are frequently used to to mitigate that, but that they are also encouraging for anything that is really not even closely related to a lacrosse move that we red card. So just a reminder there as well. And then I think it sounds like everyone's already talked about it, but just sportsmanship. In general, I would say probably coming from the benches is a big thing we see a lot. Or the lack of sportsmanship, I should say.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sam. We appreciate you joining us and giving these great updates.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anything else from anyone before we sign off? Have a quick discussion about play dates.
I think that's it.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for attending and appreciate it for anyone who's made it through this whole hour, 10-minute long meeting that we're not used to.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate everything.
Thank you very much.